Chosen one, stop scrolling. This message is not random, and the timing is not coincidence. If you have felt stuck, postponed, overlooked, or held back while others seemed to move ahead effortlessly, this is for you. What you called a delay was not a mistake. It was not punishment. It was not God forgetting your name. It was strategy. Chosen one, there are certain lives God cannot rush. There are assignments too heavy, influence too powerful, and impact too deep to be released early. That is why your journey has felt slower, lonelier, and more intense than most. While others were allowed to move fast, you were forced to wait. While others celebrated early wins, you were pulled into silence. And the truth is this: speed would have destroyed you. Delay preserved you. This is where most people misunderstand God. They assume progress always looks like motion, but for the chosen, progress often looks like restriction. Doors closed, not because you were unworthy, but because you were unready. Relationships ended not because you failed, but because they could not go where you were headed. Opportunities disappeared not because you missed them, but because they were too small for what you carry. Scripture confirms this pattern again and again. Joseph was given the vision early, but the fulfillment came years later through betrayal, prison, and isolation. David was anointed king, then sent back to the fields and caves. Moses was called, then hidden for 40 years. Even Jesus waited 30 years before beginning a 3-year ministry that changed the world. Delay has always been the language God uses to build depth before release. And here is the part that stings: watching others pass you while you stand still. Seeing people with less integrity, less discipline, less spiritual awareness move forward while you wait. That pain was not accidental. God was training your spirit not to crave applause, not to depend on validation, and not to measure yourself by timelines that were never designed for you. Let me say this clearly. Chosen ones are not delayed because they are weak. They are delayed because they are dangerous when fully activated. God had to mature your discernment, strengthen your emotional control, and strip you of ego before entrusting you with influence. Had you arrived early, you would have bled where you were meant to lead. Right here, pause for a moment. If this is already speaking directly to your experience, do not ignore that pull. Support the message by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment that says, "I understand now." And if you feel led, super thanks helps keep these messages reaching the ones who need them most. That support matters more than you know. Now listen carefully. The enemy tried to convince you that delay meant denial. That waiting meant rejection, that silence meant absence. But God was doing his deepest work in the hidden places. While nothing seemed to be happening on the surface, everything was being aligned underneath. Character was forming, discernment was sharpening, strength was being built quietly without witnesses. This is why when your moment comes, it will look sudden to others but overdue to you. They will call it luck. They will say you appeared out of nowhere. They will never see the years of restraint, the nights of confusion, the prayers that felt unanswered, but heaven saw it all. Your delay was strategic, and this is only the beginning of understanding why. If you only knew what God blocked that you never saw, you would stop mourning the delay and start thanking him for it. Chosen one, not everything that looks like an opportunity is a blessing. Some doors were shut because behind them was damage you were not meant to carry. Some paths were blocked because the version of you back then would not have survived. What was waiting ahead? God's protection does not always look gentle. Sometimes it looks like frustration. Sometimes it looks like rejection. Sometimes it looks like watching something you prayed for fall apart right in front of you. But Scripture shows us this pattern clearly. The Lord will keep you from all harm. That promise does not mean harm never approaches. It means it never succeeds. Think about Joseph again. Had he risen to power immediately after receiving the dream, his brother's jealousy would have destroyed him. God allowed the pit, the prison, and the process not to hurt Joseph but to shield him. By the time he stood in authority, the very people who tried to break him could no longer touch him. The delay positioned him where attacks could not reach. The same applies to you. There were relationships you begged God to save that he allowed to collapse. You thought it was loss. It was protection. Those people would have had access to you in a season where your discernment was still developing. God cut the cord before they could drain you, distract you, or derail your purpose. You were spared heartbreaks that would have permanently altered your direction. There were environments you wanted to enter that never opened up. Jobs, platforms, circles, or opportunities that seemed perfect on the surface. But behind the scenes, compromise was waiting. Pressure was waiting. A slow erosion of your values was waiting. God blocked you not because you lacked favor, but because favor would have exposed you too early. Moses wanted to deliver his people in his own timing. He acted in passion, not maturity, and it cost him 40 years in the wilderness. But that wilderness was not punishment. It was protection. God removed Moses from Egypt until the impulsive version of him died and a shepherd's heart replaced a warrior's rage. Only then was he safe to carry authority without abusing it. You were being protected from premature exposure. Exposure without grounding creates pride, fear, and collapse. God refused to showcase you before he stabilized you. He refused to elevate you before your emotions were disciplined. He refused to release you while your identity could still be shaken by criticism or praise. And let's be honest, some of the things you were asking for would have broken you. You were praying from pain, not clarity. God saw the version of you that would exist after healing, and he answered that version instead of the wounded one. What felt like silence was God saying, "Not yet, I love you too much." This is why chosen ones experience more closed doors than open ones early on. Protection comes before promotion. Covering comes before calling. If God delayed you, it is because what you carry attracts resistance. The higher the assignment, the stronger the opposition. Delay was God building armor around your life. Now understand this. The delay is ending because the protection has done its work. You can now stand where you once would have fallen. You can now handle what once would have overwhelmed you. You are no longer vulnerable in the same way. There is a kind of authority that cannot be taught, borrowed, or faked. It can only be forged. And it is forged in seasons where nothing moves, nothing answers, and no one applauds. Chosen one, the delay was not empty time. It was the furnace where your inner authority was formed. Outer success without inner authority creates insecurity. Influence without depth creates collapse. God will never release you publicly before you are anchored privately. That is why the waiting season felt so internal, so psychological, so emotionally demanding. God was not just working on what you do. He was working on who you are when no one is watching. David is the clearest example. He was anointed king, then immediately sent back to the field. Not to a throne, not to an army, but to sheep. That field was not a demotion. It was a training ground, alone with God. David learned courage fighting lions and bears that no one ever saw. Those unseen victories built a confidence that later allowed him to face Goliath without fear. His authority was internal long before it was recognized externally. Your delay served the same purpose. While it looked like stagnation, you were developing emotional control. You learned how to sit with discomfort without running. You learned how to obey God without immediate reward. You learned how to keep your integrity when cutting corners would have been easier. That is authority, the kind that does not need approval to stand firm. God was also detoxing you from dependency. Dependency on people, validation, timelines, and outcomes. In the delay, you discovered that God alone was enough. That kind of reliance changes how you carry yourself. It creates spiritual weight. When you walk into a room now, you are not searching for permission. You are grounded. That is why people feel your presence before you speak. Authority has nothing to do with volume. It comes from alignment. Scripture tells us Jesus grew in wisdom, stature, and favor. Growth preceded ministry. Those 30 hidden years were not wasted. They were essential. Jesus did not rush to prove who he was. He did not chase platforms. When his moment came, he spoke with authority because he had already settled his identity in private. The delay also taught you restraint. You learned when not to speak, when not to react, when not to reveal everything God showed you. That wisdom will protect your future. Many chosen ones fail not because they lack vision, but because they reveal it too early to the wrong people. God taught you silence, so your destiny would not be sabotaged. You also learned discernment. You can now sense when something is off without needing proof. That did not come from comfort. It came from betrayal, confusion, and disappointment. Those experiences sharpened your spiritual senses. Now you can read rooms, motives, and energy with clarity. That is part of your authority. Here is the truth. If God had moved you faster, you would have led from insecurity. If he had answered sooner, you would have acted from ego. If he had elevated you early, you might have confused attention with purpose. The delay stripped you down until only truth remained. And now you carry something most people never develop: quiet confidence, unshakable grounding, inner authority that does not need to explain itself. This may be difficult to accept at first, but hear it clearly. Delay is not a sign of abandonment. It is a sign of trust. God does not entrust heavy assignments to unstable vessels. When God delays you, he is saying, you can handle the weight of waiting. That alone sets you apart. Most people ask God for speed, but few are built for responsibility. Responsibility requires restraint. It requires patience. It requires the ability to stay obedient, even when nothing seems to be happening. God watches how you respond in the waiting season, because that response determines what you can be trusted with later. Abraham was promised a son, but the fulfillment took decades. Why? Because Isaac was not just a child, he was the carrier of a covenant. God needed Abraham's faith to mature beyond impulse and fear. When Abraham tried to rush the promise through his own strength, it created conflict and consequences that lasted generations. God's delay was not cruelty, it was precision. Chosen one, God delayed you because he saw what you would do with power. He needed to be sure your heart would remain aligned when influence arrived. Anyone can say they will stay humble before they have something to lose. The waiting season proves whether humility is real or just language. Look at Joseph again. God did not promote him when he first interpreted dreams. He waited until Joseph's character matched his calling. By the time Joseph stood before Pharaoh, bitterness had been purged. Pride had been stripped. Revenge had been surrendered. Only then could Joseph hold authority without abusing it. That is trust. God also delays chosen ones because he knows you will not walk away. Many people are called, but few remain faithful when progress feels slow. The delay tested your endurance. It tested your loyalty. It tested whether you loved God for who he is or only for what he gives. You stayed. That is why promotion is inevitable. Scripture says, those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. Waiting is not passive. It is active trust. It is choosing faith daily without evidence. God entrusts this kind of waiting only to those with spiritual stamina. Others would quit. Others would compromise. You endured. The delay also showed God how you handle silence. Silence reveals maturity. Immature faith panics when God is quiet. Mature faith listens. In the silence, you learn to discern God's voice without signs or confirmation. That intimacy cannot be rushed. God trusts you now because you are no longer driven by noise. This is why your path looks different. You were not allowed to cut corners. You were not allowed to blend in. You were not allowed to take shortcuts. God knew you would take the long way and still remain obedient. That obedience built trust between you and him. Understand this clearly. Delay does not mean God is unsure about you. It means he is sure. He is preparing circumstances to match the version of you that can handle the outcome. When the door opens, it will stay open because you are ready. One of the hardest lessons for a chosen one is understanding that God uses delay to protect you from people who are not meant to walk your path. When doors stayed closed, when opportunities seemed denied, and when relationships faltered, it was not coincidence. It was divine separation. The delay was creating space for alignment, ensuring that when your time comes, you are surrounded by the right people and alone when necessary. The enemy wants you to believe that being alone is punishment. He whispers that you are forgotten, abandoned, or unworthy. But the truth is the opposite. Loneliness is often a protective measure. God knows that the wrong companions, associates, or friends could derail your purpose. They could feed your doubts, influence your decisions, or pull you into conflicts that have nothing to do with your destiny. By delaying your progress, God allowed you to identify who truly belongs in your circle. Think about Joseph again. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned by people he should have been able to trust. At first glance, it looks like misfortune, but in truth, God was orchestrating a separation that would ultimately place Joseph in a position where he could influence nations. Those who were unfit to carry the vision alongside him were removed, ensuring the integrity of his assignment. Similarly, David's early years in the fields and hiding from King Saul created separation from people who could have corrupted him. The delay kept him from early exposure to political intrigue, jealousy, and manipulation. Isolation was not punishment, it was preparation. It allowed him to mature, learn discernment, and build relationships only with those whose hearts aligned with God's plan. Chosen one, the people you lost, the friendships that ended, and the alliances that failed, these were not failures. They were shields. They protected your spirit, your heart, and your mission. Those who left or betrayed you simply could not sustain the energy of your calling. God needed you to walk alone for a season to preserve your focus, refine your character, and prepare you for the company you will eventually lead. This separation also sharpened your discernment. When people dropped away or tested your patience, you learned to distinguish between genuine alignment and superficial connection. You became sensitive to who adds value, who drains energy, and who respects the calling on your life. That sensitivity will serve you as you step into new levels of responsibility. The delay taught another truth. Chosen ones cannot rely on others to validate their path. While support is valuable, destiny is not dependent on popular approval. Being alone for a season strengthens spiritual resilience. It teaches patience, humility, and trust. When the right people enter your life, they will complement your purpose rather than hinder it. Chosen one, the delay was not a pause in your purpose. It was a refining fire for the gifts God placed inside you. Gifts that appear natural often require discipline, understanding, and control before they can be fully unleashed. What feels dormant in your life is actually developing depth, precision, and resilience. God is shaping your abilities so that when they emerge, they are effective, sustainable, and unstoppable. Many people receive gifts but fail to steward them properly. Without refinement, spiritual abilities can lead to pride, misjudgment, or confusion. The delay prevented that. It kept you in the quiet, in the training ground, where your character had to catch up with your calling. This is how God ensures that power, influence, and insight are always matched with wisdom, humility, and discernment. Look at Daniel in the Bible. Even though he had visions and gifts of interpretation, God did not elevate him immediately. Daniel spent years in training, in captivity, facing challenges that tested his faith, patience, and integrity. When the moment came to interpret the king's dream, his gift was mature, precise, and unmistakable. His delayed rise ensured he could operate under pressure without compromise, and his influence would last for generations. Your gifts were being protected during this delay as well. The enemy would have tried to manipulate, distort, or exploit them if they had been exposed too early. By withholding immediate success, God allowed your gifts to develop in a controlled environment, free from misuse or misalignment. That is why periods of waiting feel like inactivity, when in reality, you are growing in power behind the scenes. This refining process also strengthens your resilience. Gifts alone can be fragile if tested prematurely. God uses waiting to cultivate endurance. Spiritual strength is not just the ability to perform. It is the ability to remain steadfast under trial, criticism, and misunderstanding. Every delayed blessing is a weight test, preparing you to carry influence without being crushed by it. The delay also fosters revelation. True gifts come with insight, not just the ability to act, but the understanding of when, how, and where to act. That discernment cannot be rushed. God was teaching you timing, strategy, and precision. He was giving your spirit the ability to sense alignment and reject misalignment. Without this, gifts can become a liability rather than a blessing. Finally, the delay teaches gratitude and humility. When your gifts finally manifest, you will recognize the hand of God in every detail. You will not attribute success to luck, talent, or circumstance. You will see clearly that preparation preceded manifestation. That recognition ensures your power will be used for purpose, not for personal gain or self-promotion. Chosen one of the most overlooked purposes of delay is the building of spiritual resilience. Resilience is the ability to stand firm when storms rage, when criticism pierces, and when everything around you seems to collapse. God knew that your journey would not be easy, and He delayed your breakthrough to prepare your spirit to withstand trials without wavering. Spiritual resilience is not born in comfort. It is forged in moments when you feel invisible, unheard, and unrecognized. It is shaped by experiences that test faith, challenge patience, and stretch endurance. Every postponed opportunity, every closed door, and every unanswered prayer added layers of strength to your soul. These moments were not meant to break you. They were meant to toughen you. Think of Job. Though he was righteous, he faced unimaginable trials, loss of family, wealth, and health. His resilience was tested at every turn, yet he remained steadfast in his faith. That period of intense waiting and suffering was necessary. It proved that when all else is stripped away, the chosen one remains anchored in God's truth. Like Job, your delayed moments were trials designed to refine your inner strength and loyalty to divine purpose. The delay also prepared you for opposition. Chosen ones often attract resistance because they carry light in a dark world. People will misunderstand your intentions, mock your calling, and attempt to divert your focus. Without resilience, this opposition could have shaken your spirit. The waiting season taught you endurance, persistence, and faith in God's plan, even when the path was unclear. You learned to rise above criticism, rejection, and isolation because you understood that God's timing is perfect and His promises never fail. Spiritual resilience also means developing patience. It is the ability to remain steadfast while God aligns circumstances, people, and resources for your breakthrough. Many fail because they grow impatient and take matters into their own hands, risking compromise or loss. You, however, were being trained to wait faithfully, to trust God's plan, and to act only when the timing aligns perfectly. This patience ensures that when your moment arrives, your steps are guided, intentional, and unstoppable. Moreover, resilience strengthens your faith. When delays feel long and trials seem unending, faith is the anchor that keeps you grounded. God allowed the delays to deepen your trust, proving that His plans are reliable, His timing is perfect, and your calling is secure. The stronger your faith, the less vulnerable you become to fear, doubt, or distraction. Finally, resilience shapes leadership. Chosen ones will inevitably lead, guide, and influence others. A resilient leader does not crumble under pressure. A resilient leader inspires confidence, navigates storms wisely, and protects the people entrusted to them. Your waiting season has prepared you to lead with courage, clarity, and unwavering faith. Chosen one of the most profound gifts hidden in the delay is discernment. Delay is not just about waiting, it's about learning to see clearly what others cannot. It is about understanding timing, people, and opportunities in a way that ensures you move in alignment with God's plan. The longer you wait, the sharper your spiritual vision becomes. Spiritual discernment is the ability to distinguish between what is from God and what is not. Many are eager to move, chase, or claim, but without discernment, they fall into traps, compromise their calling, or align with influences that hinder their purpose. Your season of waiting has trained your spirit to sense truth beneath appearances. You've learned to feel the energy of people and situations before committing your time, trust, or resources. This insight cannot be rushed. It must be cultivated. Think about Joseph once more. Before rising to Pharaoh's right hand, he endured betrayal, slavery, and false accusations. Through every trial, God was teaching him to read people, understand motives, and act with wisdom. When the moment of promotion arrived, Joseph's discernment allowed him to manage Egypt during famine with precision. He could see the difference between true loyalty and deception, between wise counsel and opportunism. The delay gave him this edge. Your waiting season has done the same. Every door that stayed closed was a test, teaching you patience and sharpening your perception. Every relationship that ended was a lesson in recognizing alignment and separation. Every disappointment was a refining tool to help you understand the spiritual dynamics of your environment. By enduring and observing, you've built the ability to navigate life with eyes wide open. Discernment also helps you recognize timing. Many attempt to force breakthroughs, to grab blessings prematurely, or to act before God has set the stage. The chosen one cannot afford such mistakes. Your delay has trained you to wait for God's exact moment, to move only when the path is fully prepared, and to act with confidence when the timing is right. That is why when your breakthrough comes, it will feel effortless and precise to the world, but you will know it is the result of unseen preparation. This sharpening of discernment also protects your gifts and influence. Without discernment, gifts can be misused, opportunities squandered, and influence corrupted. delay ensures you are spiritually equipped to carry what God has entrusted to you without faltering, being manipulated, or making costly mistakes. Finally, discernment cultivates wisdom and humility. You learn to trust God's guidance over your instincts, to remain silent when the wrong words could harm your future, and to speak only when truth aligns with timing. That combination of wisdom, patience, and insight sets you apart from the crowd and positions you as a leader who moves deliberately, powerfully, and spiritually aligned. Chosen one, now it is time to understand the ultimate purpose of the delay, your breakthrough. Everything you have endured, the waiting, the isolation, the closed doors, the heartbreaks, the testing, the refining, has been orchestrated to prepare you for a moment that will change everything. What once felt like stagnation is actually the build-up to your greatest release. Breakthrough is not just about success. It is about alignment. It is about stepping into your purpose fully, without compromise, and in a season where God has positioned every detail perfectly. The delays ensured that your character, your authority, your gifts, your discernment, and your resilience are all mature enough to handle the weight of what is coming. Nothing will be accidental and nothing will be wasted. Think of Joseph again. His rise to prominence in Egypt did not happen overnight. Years of betrayal, prison, and patience were necessary. By the time he stood before Pharaoh, he was ready, not only to interpret dreams but to manage the survival of nations. His breakthrough was not just personal advancement. It was a divinely timed, strategic release that impacted millions. Your breakthrough will follow the same pattern. It will affect not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Breakthrough also requires precision, which is why delay is crucial. God aligns circumstances, people, and opportunities perfectly. If your breakthrough had come too early, it could have been wasted, mismanaged, or even sabotaged. Timing ensures that you step into your moment fully equipped, fully prepared, and fully grounded. Everything aligns to amplify your influence and purpose when the appointed moment arrives. Moreover, the delay has created a hunger in you, a deep spiritual longing that cannot be satisfied by ordinary achievements. That hunger drives clarity of purpose, tenacity, and relentless faith. You no longer desire temporary gain or superficial recognition. You are poised to embrace a breakthrough that resonates with destiny, one that reflects the depth of preparation God has poured into your life. Breakthrough also requires a heart aligned with God. The waiting season has stripped away ego, entitlement, and distraction. It has removed influences that could compromise your mission. By now, you know what truly matters: obedience, integrity, and faithfulness. This alignment ensures that your breakthrough is sustainable and transformative, not fleeting or hollow. Finally, the delay makes your breakthrough undeniable. Others will notice your rise and wonder how it happened. They will see the results, but not the years of preparation. That is intentional. God's timing is perfect, and the suddenness of your breakthrough will testify to His hand, power, and strategy. You are not appearing out of nowhere. You are appearing at the exact moment you were meant to. Chosen one, understand this deeply. Your delay was never a setback. It was preparation, protection, and positioning. Everything you endured has been a divine strategy, and now you are ready. Your breakthrough is coming, and it will honor every season you waited. This is your moment. Step forward with confidence, faith, and gratitude, because the world is about to see what God has been quietly forming in you all along.